Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Salt and Sauce podcast, looking at the two Edinburgh-based football clubs, with myself representing Hearts and Robert, my good friend, representing Hibs. So great to see you again, Rob. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I'm okay. Been better, but the taste of defeat stings a bit in the mouth.
Unfamiliar territory for
It
you.
is. It is.
Quick shout out for our sponsors before we get started. First up, I'll give a shout out to AW Decor, an Edinburgh-based painting and decorating firm who are brilliant. I know they've done some work for you, Rob, and you were thoroughly impressed with them. So please, their details will be on the screen. Do give them a shout. And Robert, our other sponsor.
Mint box removals. You met Make Aberdeen great again, Dave, on our last podcast. Great bunch of guys. Very professional, well-run removal company. They've moved various celebrities up and down the country. So give them a hit if you've got any removal needs.
Thanks very much, Robert. Yeah, we'll kick on then with the podcast. There's obviously a lot to discuss, and actually we'll discuss the games a lot less than we normally do today because there's some fairly big news regarding the Hearts management team that's jumping out at us. So why don't we start with the Hibs game? We'll then talk about the Hearts game and obviously the outcome of that before looking at the next Hearts game, and then we'll finish on the Hibs game again. Um, both teams lost 1-0 at the weekend. Hibs lost their first game since I don't know the late 70s or something like that at the on Saturday there, 1-0 against Aberdeen. Tell us about the game.
Yeah, I predicted. I think I predicted a draw. Did I? In the last one, I think it was 2-2.
Yeah,
Might have predicted. Um, it was our worst performance in a long time. Now, I obviously said I would take a draw, but I didn't think we would play for a draw. And I think um, Gray got his tactics slightly wrong. Um, and
Saka.
it pains me to say that because we've obviously been on a great run. It doesn't take away from the fact the great run that we've been on, the way the players have been playing. It doesn't take away from that, but looking at that game in isolation, we got it wrong. That Aberdeen team, as we talked about when they played Hearts, they're not a great side. And I just thought right from the start we kind of went for a draw. Campbell in when Hoylett should be in. If you're going for the win. We had Nicky Cadden on the bench. I think he should have started. He could have been the difference in that game. We've covered him a lot because it was always going to be a tight game. And that's kind of the way it played out. There's not much to talk about, really. We had one sitter we missed, and the other it was a good chance for Campbell. He's probably disappointed because he's pretty good in the air, but his header just goes wide. Apart from that, we had Rocky who missed from like three or 4 yards out. Again, he's a defender. Maybe if that comes to Gale or Bowie, it's in the back of the net, but it didn't, and it's all lifts and buts. And I just thought we were very defensive. I thought we could have attacked a lot more. I think we gave them way too much respect. I was watching it and I was just thinking, why are we not going for it the way we have in previous games? We were sitting back, we were slowing it down, and with like 15 minutes to go, you could see we were kind of kicking the ball out of play, very slow to get it back. There was no tempo. We were taking the point. Now,
Oh
I've
yeah,
been in a lot of arguments online with a lot of Hibs fans that are like, "Oh, get behind the team and all that." I'm still very much behind the team, and I think everyone that's criticising that performance is still behind the team, and we're still behind Gray, and we're still in the driving seat for third. But that doesn't mean you can't criticise. And I just thought that we went up there for a point, and it looked like we were trying to get a point. We were very close to it, and obviously it's a Nisbet wonder goal. It's a really really nice finish, but Aberdeen deserved the win, and for the Dons fans listening, there's no sour grapes here. We did go for the draw. Very dangerous to do that in football, and Aberdeen deserved the win. So credit to them for getting that.
I was just about to ask you if they deserved it because obviously I
Yeah.
didn't see the full game, but I actually looked at the stats before I saw any clips, And I was looking at it like Aberdeen had a fair bit more possession. They had 5 shots on target. Hibs actually, how many shots on target do you think you had?
I don't think we had any.
Yeah, I know. And well, no, you didn't, sorry. And it's just surprising given how Hibs have been. But I made this point about Critchley. Um, I spoke about ifs and buts and small moments that
Yeah.
actually have a big impact. And I spoke about games where I thought Hearts had played really well. The biggest example of that is Rangers.
Mm.
We were a refereeing mistake away from probably going 2-1 up with a penalty to 60 seconds later being 2-1 down. And now you look at the knock-on effect of that.
Yeah.
Not that I think that that'll happen to Gray, obviously.
Mm.
You look at, does Nisbet score that wonder goal every week? No. Do
Yeah.
do people miss these chances from 3 yards every week and maybe 2 or 3 times in the same game, as you say? Probably not.
Mm.
So yeah, probably fair to say they didn't deserve the win or the draw. Probably not that Aberdeen were brilliant,
No,
but it probably was a fair reflection. But on another day, you could easily have walked away with the 1-0 yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I always say never go for the draw. I know we were having a bit of banter in the last one where you were saying kind of typical Hibs not going for the win. But it was a game that was kind of there for the taking for either team, sorry. And I just thought when we could have really pushed on in the second half, really put them under pressure, we never got going. It was those kind of misplaced passes, poor crosses. We got to the final third, and there was just kind of nothing,
Whereas,
which has been really unlike us.
yeah. Whereas Hoylett can unlock with that pass, or Nicky can
Exactly.
get that cross
Exactly.
across the 6 yard line or whatever.
And a lot of Hibs fans are saying, "Oh, these things happen. We played really well. We didn't play well. That's our worst performance in a very long time." And as you say, the fact there were no shots on target kind of underlines our lack of quality in that game. And I just thought that was a game that Nicky Cadden could have been on, and he could have made the difference. He could have put us one up with that, the quality he has, putting it on Bowie's head, or we had a couple of free kicks, and it just kind of never amounted to anything. And I just got the feeling that as the game was going on, I just was thinking, we're taking this now, we're taking this draw, and again we concede late. So look, no sour grapes, as I say. We're still in the driving seat for Don's fans listening in. I'm still backing us for third. I think you're going to struggle at St Mirren. I think they're going to be right up for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're back 2 or 3 points ahead come Sunday.
Bold words, Robert. Fair dues, and good on you, mate. No, I like that. You're backing your team there, and I know you're sort of doing it to stick it to Aberdeen, but that's because they're your direct rivals in the league.
Yeah.
Right? So no, fair dues, mate. Good on you. But clearly another example of David Gray bottling a big game. And room to go. But actually, no. What a contrast! He's just signed a new 3-year deal. I've noticed in the week there. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little bit surprised at the timing. Just because, as I said, we've not achieved anything yet. We've achieved a good run. We've won back-to-back derbies. We've won against Celtic. We've had some good performances. He has improved the players that he inherited. But we're yet to achieve anything yet. And I just thought the timing of it, he's still got a year left on his current deal. And I just think we maybe should have assessed things in the summer. But
Yeah. I was worried about sounding too much like a Hearts fan here, but put it this way: if David Gray starts next season the way he started this season, or even finishes this season the way he started it, and
yeah,
you guys end up sort of tumbling to fifth and maybe sixth is a little bit
yeah,
unrealistic, but either way, suddenly it's obviously great that you've gone from bottom to fifth. But what so could easily have been third, you're starting to think, oh man, that's a bit disappointing actually. And suddenly it's a good season without being a brilliant season,
yeah,
and then who knows what happens next season. It did feel a bit bizarre.
yeah. I just as a Hibs fan, you don't count your chickens. And I just think that we maybe could have, and I know, look, from Hibs' point of view, there's managerial jobs going. Gray's been banded about prematurely, in my opinion. But his
Yeah,
name's been banded about. They see it as protecting an asset, and if someone wants to come and get him, then they're protecting that because they obviously see the future in Gray and its stability. And look, I made this point as well that maybe the likes of Boyle and others are wanting some stability before they commit their futures to Hibs as well. So look, I can see it from both point of view. I'm obviously delighted. I do think he's the right man. I've seen enough from him that I think we're kind of progressing in the right manner. But I just think I never liked the timing of this before, you know, we know where we're going to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me. It is one that could easily be a shrewd move, as easily it could be a poor decision in the long run. You know, I realize there's a middle ground where he just sort of has a good few years at Hibs, maybe
Yep.
without being stunning, but without being disastrous to get sacked, and it's just you part. Who knows? Who knows? But certainly agree that it's bizarre timing. But anyway, speaking about managers and their long-term prospects, obviously that brings us on to Hearts. I'll go through the game super quick, but basically we were rubbish. It was very uninspiring. We had a few chances that we probably should have scored, and okay, look, we could have another conversation about ifs and buts. But if we do take one of those early chances and we go 1-0 up, we see the game out. You know, Critchley's still in the role, probably. Well, you would think so. Definitely still in the role. Um, That's not what happened though, obviously. And actually, Simon Murray's the perfect way to contrast, I think, the fate, the luck that luck's maybe not the right word, but just the experience that Hearts are having right now. In that when we played them in the cup, things were going well. We just humped them 6-0. We'd won like 7 out of 9 games. Overall, things were going well. Um, Simon Murray scored an own goal, which obviously is good fun for Hearts fans. Good bit of enjoyment there, as much as I respect the guy. He's an ex-Hibby. But then, of course, he scores the winning goal at Tynecastle, and it makes it's all the worse. It's salt on the wounds at that point, to a really disappointing, quite pathetic 1-0 defeat actually. Um, so forgetting the game really, because obviously the main talking point is Critchley getting sacked. If I had to summarise what I think about it, there's some Hearts fans are delighted about it. Some Hearts fans more on my side of things, which is I'm not gutted to see him go because he was never a particularly inspiring figure. He had a bit of the sort of less cringeworthy Lee Johnson about him. Um, but I do think it's harsh. I do think it's harsh because we've spoken about some fine margins that have really gone against Critchley. The Rangers game being an example. There have been some absolutely terrible moments as well, no doubt about that. The drawing with the Diddy club in Europe that otherwise would have seen us through if we just won that game. Um, really poor. The Derby defeats, obviously, we hate that. We don't like that, and even worse to actually get outplayed in them rather than just beaten is poor. The 1-0 away to Kilmarnock when they're down to 10 men. Like these things are poor. But when you look at where we were when he came in, I'll come back to it again. Critchley can only speak for what he's done, not Naismith. And his points per game is okay, it's a little bit further behind Gray now, but well, in fact, no, I suppose it'll still be the same because Hibs lost at the weekend too. He's not far behind Gray in terms of points per game. He's above Jimmy Talleen in terms of points per game. He's fourth in the league since he took over on form, or on that form since then. I I don't know. I think it's quite harsh to sack him. If we end up obviously getting a better manager in longer term, then great. I'll be happy with it. I'm actually not even saying that I'm unhappy with it. I'm just saying if I was Neil Critchley, I'd actually be a bit peeved with the decision. People point to his big game records. We ended up with 9 men in the semi-final, and whether regardless of thoughts on the red card, these are individual moments that players are individual decisions that players are taking. Same with the James Wilson one v Dundee United. That I'm 100% certain we win that game if we've got 11 men. Um, the Rangers game, okay, we'll come back. We've come back to that. Or sorry, that's been mentioned already. I don't know. It'll be a chapter that will probably be forgotten about quite soon for Hearts fans. I'm hoping that we get somebody good in, somebody that goes alongside this Jamestown analytics stuff and buys into that. Um, I'd be annoyed if I was Neil Critchley.
Just looking at it, and I know you've been a kind of quite level-headed about Critchley, but looking at that Heart squad, and I know as you say, Naismith takes some of the blame, but that's a good Heart squad, Stuart. That
No,
is that is a squad that he has inherited. It's not like he's inherited, like Ross County or even, you know, Dundee, for example. He's inherited one of the best squads in the league. So
absolutely.
I think that it has to be tempered with that, and it's an expensive squad. It was underperforming under Naismith. He was sacked. Critchley's come in. There was the upturn in form there, but, and this is the big but, when the crunches come, when the big games have come, and you need to get over the line and you need to make those tactical decisions within games, I just think he's fallen short. And you're right, Stuart. I think he's a type of guy, unlike the likes of Nielsen, that you could see getting a dressing room fired up for a big game, and the derbies, and even like a poorer Heart squad, you could see him getting more out of that for those big games.
Yeah,
Critchley does have that kind of Johnson Cathro type
yeah, yeah. No, he does.
nonsense, where probably a bit like those two managers, the players are kind of, it's overcomplicated. Do you know what I mean? They don't know what they're doing. There's probably too much
No.
analytical stuff going on where players don't know whether they're coming or going, whether to press, whether to sit. And I just get that impression. Obviously, I'm not in the dressing room. I don't know, but I do think there's a bit of that as well, because sometimes when you listen to the likes of Johnson, you just think, how are the players meant to understand that? How are the players meant to, figure out what to do? And I just think not putting it all on the manager, because obviously the players have underperformed. There's been individual mistakes as well. But I just think when the crunches come, he just hasn't been good enough, and he's not inspiring. And I think with all that, and going into now a crunch game for Hearts on Saturday, I wasn't surprised to see the board act then.
No, fair enough. And like I can obviously see the argument for him going. I just think it's such a small. He's been in charge for 35 games. He's won 15 of them, which I would want a bigger percentage as a Hearts manager. Yes, absolutely. But compare that to what was it, 1 out of 8 or 1 out of 9 or whatever before he came
Yeah.
in. It's obviously massively improved there. 15 out of 35, look, fine, it's not great, but it's far from disastrous. And,
Mm.
and then you add on the draws on top of that, you're probably looking at somewhere in the 50s for your final points total for the season, 50 to 60 points. I would want better for Hearts, sure, but is that sack worthy? Has he had enough time? I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm sounding like I want him back in charge. That's
Yeah.
absolutely what I'm saying, because would I have taken him in the first place? No, because I like a manager that's got a bit more fire in him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone like even like Craig Levine. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes I hated Levine for his
Yeah.
tactics,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he was effective.
Yep.
You know what
Yep.
I mean? He had some bad times, but he got the job done a lot of the time as well. And you could imagine him sticking the boot up a player if he needed to as well, or
Yeah.
ramming the nut on somebody if he needed to. Uh,
And
Same with Nielsen.
obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Levine and stuff, but you look at his Derby record, with poorer Hearts team, much poorer Hearts team, and again, I just get back to those moments in kind of the big games, and that's where Gray has impressed me, not on Saturday, but on this run, where you can see him make tactical tweaks within games that have actually made the difference. We brought on players that have come on and won us the game, for example, when it's been 0-0, or when it's been 1-0, he's rolled the dice and said, you know what, I'm going to put Bowie, I'm going to put Gale, Hoylett on, and we've went on to win it comfortably. These are the moments. I never got that with Critchley, just from the games I watched with Hearts. Even that game, the semi-final, I think what's gone against him as well is it's those margins, which he's been the wrong side of it too many times. I think the way things were going, the fans had turned against him. The
Yeah,
semi-final, not making top six when it was completely in your hands with 2 games to go. The semi-final defeat, and then you lose at home to Dundee. On the back of the 2 Derby defeats, back to back, and the European, pub team result. All
yeah,
that is, I think, what Budge and Co looked at and just said, "Look, we cannot afford to go down here." And if we lose on Saturday, the fans are against us. We're trying to sell season tickets. We lose on Saturday, we're then in a relegation battle. And I think the hope is now Fox takes over. and you get a bit of a bounce. I think you just need one win, to be honest, and you're safe. But
Probably.
um, they obviously didn't think they were getting that under Critchley.
No, no, no. Listen, again, I wouldn't disagree with a lot of, or really any of what you're saying there. In the same way that I suppose as well, as much as it sounds like we're on different sides here. I don't think we are because
Yeah,
I suppose you're saying that Critchley has definitely had an element of bad luck to his reign as well.
yeah, and I think it's similar. Obviously, Gray turned things round, but it's similar to kind of what Gray was saying when we were having our terrible run. He was saying, these are fine margins and they're going against us. But what he was able to do was turn
Yeah,
that round. So the margins were going for us.
yeah,
We were getting the 2-1s, we were getting the 1-0s. Critchley just wasn't able to. And look, it may be that he needed more time and things, but he just wasn't able to turn it around convincingly enough for obviously Hearts to part with to decide to part company with him. So I can see both sides. I can see your side as well. I think it's quite a short time for a manager to be involved. But if you inherit a squad that's, for SPL terms, pretty decent,
oh yeah,
um, and you fail to get top six when you had it in your hands, um, you know, the writing was on the wall with a few bad results, I think.
yeah. Again, the top six thing again. Critchley's got an 8 or 9 game disadvantage to getting into the top six. I know Gray did it, but let's be honest. Hibs run is literally unprecedented.
Yeah.
Obviously we still should have got it. There's no debate about that. But it's made much harder when you're missing a big chunk of the season, and Critchley's record was enough to get into the top six if you extrapolate that. Um, I get what you're saying though. For me, the big difference, if I look at say the derby at Easter Road in the first half, where we agreed that Hearts were the better team.
Yeah.
Um, I know you took the lead, but both agreed Hearts were the better team.
Mm,
I think Levine or Nielsen win that game, even if Hearts have a poor second, or maybe not win it, sorry, but they don't lose it.
mm,
Even if they have the poor second half that we ended up having and Hibs are on top, I think they grind it out. You know what I mean? Maybe it depends who the Hibs manager is at the time, but they had that in them. Where you're right, Critchley, he was never a grinder of results.
mm.
Exactly.
And you need that. You need that in the SPL. You need to be able to
Yeah.
grind out results. You need to be able to get a point, to draw, to win when you're not playing at your best. And I think that he just didn't quite get that in Scotland. He wanted to play the expansive football, the attacking football, when actually sometimes that's going to leave you short at the back. And sometimes you just need to go, you know what? We're going to grind this out. And if we can get a chance, then that's great. And I know that's horrible. It's not a great way to play, but sometimes it is what's required.
Well, one thing I would say is that we were never. I mean, obviously with the exception of maybe playing the Old Firm, we were never hammered at any stage. It's been things like 1-0 to Dundee United, 1-0 to Dundee, 1-0 to Kilmarnock, 0-0 with Motherwell, all these sorts of things that have been going against us. And actually, if I look at it, if we've got Shanklin doing what he's done the last couple of seasons, or Kabangu maintains his form, if we have any sort of pace, I really miss Josh Ginnelly for us. I thought he was really effective for us because he
Mm,
stretched teams. And I know you're saying Hearts have got a strong squad. We obviously do, and it's one of the most expensively assembled outside the Old Firm.
mm,
But we have got such glaring gaps, and
mm,
one of them is pace, and the other is scoring goals. The goal scoring one I can sympathise with because nobody's expecting the drop off that Shanklin's had.
yeah.
The pace thing, I mean, it was so obvious last year, and we've
Mm,
signed, certainly looking at midfield, Danda and Spittle,
mm,
both good players. Okay, we can argue about their form this season and Danda's involvement in the season, but they're not pacey, and we need
no.
we need pace. So we need to get that sorted. But anyway, Critch is gone. I'm not like gutted about it. If
Mm,
I was him, I'd be a bit annoyed. I think.
mm.
Um, and overall,
Who's your just to before we kind of wrap up on this
yep.
in terms of the sacking and stuff? Who do you want to take over? Do you want a safe pair of hands like McInnes for a couple of seasons? Would you be against that, or do you want to look at another untried, untested experiment coming into Scottish football?
Probably somewhere in the middle, if I'm honest with you. Look, would I take McInnes? Yeah, sure. Stephen Robinson, probably.
Mm,
They get results, and if they can overachieve in the way they've done with, say, St Mirren or Kilmarnock getting to third, then and they can do that with Hearts, then overachieving for Hearts is really good. Um, do I want to necessarily go full Cathro experiment? Probably not. Never go full Cathro, but yeah, I don't know. I tried and tested manager. The reason why I thought you were about to ask me ultimately who do you want, and I'm unable to give you a name mainly because
yeah.
we've got this new model in place, and it's
Mm,
just too early to say how they operate, how expansive their network is.
mm,
Um, what I would say is, generally speaking, it's been a while since we've appointed a manager that's just been undoubtedly good. We've had managers that have had good spells. Nielsen
mm,
got us third, Naismith
mm,
got us third, Levine's had good spells, but there have also been times when Naismith, Nielsen, Levine had toxic spells, and I mean, I'm talking about what Critchley experienced on Saturday there, where the whole stadium is turning against you. So, I mean, the thing is, for all hearts get ripped for Cathro, I would look at Hibs appointing the safe hands of Terry Butcher a number of years ago.
mm, mm.
Let's be honest, and I'm not just saying this to stick the boot in,
Yeah,
was a disaster.
yeah. But again, that the appointment on paper was,
Of
the
course,
fans were calling for it, everyone was calling for it, and it was a disaster. But I think for the likes of Hearts, if you're looking at someone like Robinson, who has been extremely good over
yeah,
a long period of time in the transfer market. You think he's inheriting a better squad, a bigger budget. But will these managers, Robinson, McInnes, will they work under this model? Or actually, are they old school managers that want to say,
yeah.
you know what, I'm going to be in control of that. Thank you very much. I don't want to work under that model. But look, I would say if Hearts were to go to McInnes and maybe concede here and there, I reckon he probably would go.
It's too early to concede, though. We've only just got this model in place, and if we're going to use it, we might as well use it. You
No,
look at
no, I don't mean that. I just mean the model's in place, but you know McInnes may say, well, actually, I want to be part of that area of the model when
right,
previously perhaps little things like that.
specifics.
But I
Yeah,
but I
specific stuff.
but I reckon they would go.
I would actually take Robinson over McInnes.
So would I.
Don't know why. It's just something leaning me towards it. I actually think he's just done an overall better job. McInnes
Yeah,
has always ended up having a shaky spell at Aberdeen or at
yeah.
Kilmarnock. Look, he's a good manager. But we'll see what happens. I don't think anything will happen anytime soon, just with it being so close to the end of the season.
I
Um,
hope you get Butcher or Cathro.
Rather Pat Butcher, that'd be great. But again, my point remains is that a safe pair of hands. There's still no guarantee there, and
Yeah.
Butcher's the example for that. So looking ahead to this weekend, we've obviously got Ross County away. It's a hard one to predict because of how we've been playing, but also you just don't know what Liam Fox is going to do. He did pretty well when he was covering before. I hope that he's pragmatic enough to just get the positive result we need. I agree that I still think we're almost certainly safe from that playoff battle based on the fact that the amount of teams that need to overtake us. Are we going to pull away ourselves enough? I mean, who knows? It depends on our form. But we need every team to get enough points to overtake us in the first place. I realize they might get that from beating us, but all it takes at that point is yes, we could win a game that really takes us away. But actually, if we can draw and
Mm,
therefore limit the amount of points they get,
mm,
it means that actually you run out of teams that can catch you. So I'm almost certain we'll still be safe from that playoff spot, but it's a position we shouldn't really be in
mm.
to begin with, regardless of um, how much better Critchley was than Naismith.
So prediction score wise, Stuart.
Um, I think we'll take a 1-0. I think we'll get a 1-0 victory. It might not be the nicest game in the world, though.
I'm going for a bore all draw. And 0-0.
It wouldn't be a disaster, though. It just keeps them at arm's length.
Yeah, it would keep a 5 point gap over them.
Exactly, and you start to run out of games at that point.
Yeah, and I think
Hibs,
that'll probably be enough.
yeah. Hibs are at home to Dundee United.
Hibs are at home to Dundee United in a must-win game. And
That was my first question. Is this a cup final? Is this a must
oh,
win?
oh, it is. It is. There's no doubt about it. With our last result against Aberdeen, I do think St Mirren are going to take points off Aberdeen. I might be very wrong with that, but I think that. So we really need to win, and I don't care how we win. It doesn't have to be fantastic. We just need to win. 1-0, 2-0, whatever. We're a better team than Dundee United. Keep the ball away from Dalby with the crossing, and we need to get back to putting out an attacking team and hopefully killing the game off early. I'm traveling over for a day trip, so I'm really, really hoping that we get back to winning ways. We start our best team, our best attacking team, which includes Hoylett, which includes Nicky Cadden, and these guys can be the difference in supplying Boyle, Bowie, and I just hope we put them to the sword. So,
Especially at home as well.
hmm?
Especially at home.
Especially at home. If we don't win, and Aberdeen win, well, we're looking at a different story then, and where Aberdeen are then going to be favourites for third, obviously.
Yeah, partly because of the number of games, but also you're then looking at two of your final three games are Celtic and Rangers, which,
Exactly.
yeah, look, obviously you've beat them both recently, but you're still their favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still in the driving seat. Come 5 o'clock or whatever on Saturday, we still need to be in the driving seat. I think if we give the initiative, if we draw an Aberdeen win, we potentially blew third place, which would be a disappointment. I know, from bottom to fourth, whatever, we want third, and anything else is going to be a disappointment at this stage, given the position that we put ourselves in. So
It's the exact same as Hearts in the top six. You can talk about how bad the start was all you want,
exactly,
but regardless of the order in which you've got your points, the fact
yeah,
is you're in third now, and
yeah.
so it's your prerogative to see it out.
And I think we will win. I think it'll be a bit of a cagey affair, but I think 1-0, 2-1. I'm expecting us to win. What about yourself?
I'm gonna go with my Hearts glasses on and say 1-0 Dalby header. Which, again, I'm sure you'll admit.
Oh, it can happen. It can happen. How often have we said it? And he keeps scoring. Dundee United keep grinding these wins out as well. So look, Hibs could not turn up again. We could start the wrong team. We could not take our chances, and they get one chance, and it could be enough. But I'm expecting a Hibs win. So
Listen, like having just outplayed Dundee United, certainly for the start of the game, and ended up losing 1-0 to them with a Dalby header.
yeah, exactly. So look, we'll see what happens.
And just to prove to everyone listening, you may not know, Bob has had a bit of a bad knee injury the last wee while, which is why it's been a while since he's been over. But just to prove the friendship overriding the rivalry, I'm actually picking you up from the airport on Saturday as well.
There you go. There you go. You coming to the match, Stuart?
Anyway, next week we'll see. Yeah, no, but listen, thanks everyone for tuning in and for the comments and likes. Do like and subscribe and everything like that. That'd be grand. But Bob, we'll catch up next week.
See you next week.